I'd elect CVID for continuity. Where is it? Here? Give us an earlier stream topic. How long's the video? You know, we can check this out. Yeah, we'll check it out. What happened to Windows CE on the Sega Dreamcast? Okay, yeah, we'll check this one out. Okay.
In 1998, Microsoft announced its collaboration with Sega on Sega's new Dreamcast home video game system. According to the press release, Microsoft will provide an optimized version of the Microsoft Windows CE operating system and integrated DirectX services as the operating system for use with the Dreamcast.
What year was PS2 Linux? That was... PS2 Linux was 2002. Okay.
With the inclusion of Windows CE, Dreamcast will bring the benefits of an advanced Windows-based development environment in the world of console game development.
Okay, that makes sense. Right, so it was a dev kit thing. Okay, I was kind of confused about why you would do it. So, I'm actually curious how older dev kits worked then. So, were they just used as like a build, like a, not build, so it's like a test bench, but you wouldn't have any development tools on the device?
For the first time. Now, before we get ahead of ourselves, let's talk about what Windows CE actually is. Windows CE was Microsoft's operating system for embedded devices and minimal computers. Many believe that it's a cut-down version of Windows, and I've even used this terminology in the past incorrectly. Windows CE is not a cut-down version of Windows. While it looks very familiar to anyone who has used Windows, it runs an entirely different operating system and kernels than Windows did at the time.
Okay.
However, its name does imply and does make it a part of Microsoft's Windows family, which included Windows 95, Windows 98, and Windows NT at the time. Microsoft wanted their operating systems available everywhere, and with the emergence of smaller pocket devices and phones, they crafted a specific version of Windows that was bare bones, but still had a familiar look and feel and a familiar SDK to allow Windows programmers to port their applications to Windows CE devices with relative ease.
Everything you're saying sounds like a cut-down version of Windows.
And not only this, Microsoft were also very interested in entering the console market with their PC software sales expanding rapidly at this time.
So, what year was the original Xbox? Because what this feels like to me is kind of similar to what happened with Sony and Nintendo, where Sony was going to offer a disk drive for a Nintendo console, but then the deal didn't happen. I'm getting similar vibes. So the original Xbox was 2001? Yes, 2001. 2001 North America, 2002 everywhere else.
The only problem was, when it came to launch day of the Sega Dreamcast, Windows CE was notably absent.
Again, this feels awfully similar to what happened with Sony.
Except for those words etched on the console when the system came out. Now, depending on where you are in the world, you might either have the words compatible with Windows CE or designed for Windows CE. Now, both of these phrases come with some implications. They suggest that you could take any Windows CE application and run it on the Dreamcast, as the hardware would be running the operating system when you powered on the device.
Right.
But this is not accurate, and it's not really the fault of the end user. The messaging here was unclear. For the Dreamcast, Microsoft would indeed develop a Windows CE software development kit, or SDK, internally known.
Ironically, Windows CE was basically the Windows for Netbook system software from a time before netbooks were officially coined. Known
as Dragon. At the time, it was
Dragon
using Visual C++ 6.0.
Right.
And this predates Visual Studio by a few years. The Dreamcast Windows CE SDK installs on top of this. And if you open up any of the samples, you can see that there is very familiar Win32 code that runs here. But the point here is that Microsoft worked with Sega to develop the Windows CE SDK for the Dreamcast as an easy way to help Windows developers port their games from the PC to the Dreamcast.
Right.
And the SDK's help guide has a comprehensive FAQ section that answers many questions specifically around why there is a need to actually use Windows CE for the Dreamcast itself. But somewhere between the press release in 1998 and the launch of the Dreamcast, something had changed. Microsoft was nowhere to be found. And the 18 launch titles that arrived
Hey, TXR, let's go.
for the Dreamcast, none of them would use the Windows CE operating system. Instead,
Wait, was TXR a Dreamcast launch title? I'm assuming that's why he's showing these games on the screen. Dreamcast launch titles. 19. Launch titles. No, I don't want the full list of games. I just want the launch titles. Dreamcast launch titles. Are we Chinese yet? Wow, it actually was a launch title. Sorry, let me just sidetrack a little bit. Tokyo Extreme Racer 1. Tokyo Extreme Racer Dreamcast. Because this also released on the PS2. Oh, there's a different intro cutscene as well. Let me see gameplay. Here we go. Wait, it looked better on the Dreamcast.
When we first got together.
It's arguable because like the PS2 they have better lighting effects. They don't act. That's cool. Have I seen the Minecraft Wailing Positive guy about his Ladybird patch? I have not, no, but someone did mention it.
all the games used Sega's own software, which would be known as Katana. As we would learn, the Dreamcast itself came with no operating system at all. Rather, it came with an IPL, or initial program loader, on board. This manages the boot up sequence and the simple interface to boot games, manage your VMU save files, adjust system settings, and so on. No operating system actually resides on the device until it's loaded in on disk with each game. And this is a significant difference between what was suggested in the 1998 press release. Windows CE Dreamcast titles did eventually appear, but if we go back to our SDK for a moment, rather than the operating system embedded inside the Dreamcast ROM, it's bundled on every game that supported it. This 1 meg file here, called 0winceos.bin, is pretty much named exactly what it's supposed to mean. It's the first file that gets booted up and loads up the Windows CE operating system dynamically, and then will load in the game data that it was compiled against. And as a bonus, any game that was built using the Windows CE SDK will have the Powered by Windows CE logo on its startup.
Of course
those that don't, well, simply doesn't. In the end, there were around 80 titles that use Windows CE on the Dreamcast. Now, this isn't insignificant.
More than I would have
until
thought.
you learn that there were over 600 Dreamcast titles developed. The majority
That's still a large portion of them.
would use Sega's internal Katana SDK. So what exactly happened here? While there's no definitive reason provided, we can conclude a few things. According to a CNET article, during the launch of the Dreamcast, developers were having trouble adapting to Windows CE. Rainbow Six was intended to be a launch title for the Dreamcast, but it was delayed. However, the company missed the date because of issues surrounding the use of Windows CE, according to a spokesperson. One factor in the delay
Even back in the 90s, Windows was causing
a
problems.
lack of experience in targeting Windows CE-based software for use on a game console. Sega's then vice president of third-party development said, in the lifetime of Dreamcast products, you'll see a lot more folks with PC experience building Windows CE titles. And he estimated around 30% of Sega titles will be Windows CE based. In the end, that percentage was closer to around 13%.
Still pretty good.
Other sources suggested that Microsoft was delayed in bringing Windows CE to the Dreamcast, with its development taking over 2 years to complete, and it simply wasn't ready in time for the Dreamcast launch.
Right,
and I guess
okay.
we also have to talk about the elephant in the room. Many also conclude that Microsoft took whatever they learnt with partnering from Sega and ultimately would use their own customized Windows kernel with DirectX for their own console, the Xbox, that launched in 2001, with many considering the original Xbox to be the spiritual successor to the Dreamcast for this and other reasons. Windows CE sometimes gets a bad rap for holding back games that ran on the Dreamcast,
I had a look at the picture.
the most famous being Sega Rally 2. Its Dreamcast port is very good, but the CE operating system gets blamed for its frame rate.
That's surprising. Like, obviously not realistic physics. That's actually surprisingly good. Surprisingly good physics.
It's very well optimized, and Microsoft and their DirectX technology was very well optimized for video games. And it was something that we said was brought to the original Xbox, and they're still using to this day on the Xbox Series line of consoles. Outside of additional memory that was required when the Windows CE operating system was loaded at boot up, I don't believe that Sega Rally 2 could have really been optimized any further at the time.
Ooh.
Another notable hype.
You wanna know something fun? A lot of people have no fucking idea that Resident Evil 1 is a remake. People there are these people that have no fucking idea that, I've seen people like, oh, Resident Evil 1 needs a remake. Maybe it does, but every time that's said, people are like, you know, it's had a remake. Like, no, it hasn't. It's never had a remake. The original Resident Evil is from 96. The one that people think of as Resident Evil 1 from 2002, that's a remake of the original from 96. The original game, is a whole different game.
Profile game that used the Windows CE SDK was Resident Evil 2. The Dreamcast port is considered one of the better ones. It was ported over from the PC version, runs at a native 640 by 480, supports
that's a lot of
VGA
resolution.
output, the FMVs run full screen at 30 FPS, textures are not filtered. There is also the inclusion of hard mode, but there are some nitpicks here. There's missing audio, and the reddish filter on most of the backgrounds indicate a texture color conversion, or perhaps it was the closest the developers could come to matching the original's color palette. I should note that none of these issues are related to Windows CE itself. The development team would have used the SDK to quickly port the game from the PC codebase.
No. People that like the series know. People that have been... it seems to be a lot of the new fans who got into the series following the modern remakes, who don't have any idea that the original game's a remake. Yo, how you doing, V-Sam?
Ultimately, Sega's choosing to go down a different route than what was originally planned by bundling an operating system with the disc itself rather than on the console is probably what saved the Dreamcast and kept it alive all these years later. Now, what I mean by that is, of course, we know that the Dreamcast lifespan was short-lived, but its thriving community that's continuing to build games to this very day uses an open source alternative known as Callistos. It's a very advanced SDK in its feature set and up to date, and it even supports modern C++ standards and very optimized 3D graphics APIs, including OpenGL. Consider if Windows CE was baked into the hardware. Things would be very different today, and there may not be the community of developers that are still working on the hardware in the same fashion. It would have suffered from a similar fate to the original Xbox in that binaries were technically illegal to distribute, so I guess it was the right move. and I do hope that this deep dive does help clear up some confusion and misconceptions about Windows CE on the Dreamcast. And if you like this episode and you want to see more similar deep dives in certain topics in the history of video games, please let me know in the comments below. But for now, guys,
Is
we're going to leave it
RE4
here.
bad?
Thank you so much for
Like
watching.
the remake
If
bad?
you liked it, don't forget to leave me a thumbs up, and I'll catch you guys in
I've
the next
recently been
episode.
hearing this. I don't know
Bye
the
for now.
context. That was fun. Yeah, I never had a Dreamcast. I never had a Sega console. Okay, right. It's soulless. I see. Yeah, I never had a Dreamcast myself, and I had a Sega console. My first console was a PS2. I have played some older consoles. Like, I had a family member that had a 2600. I had family members that had, like, an NES, things like that. But Sega's something I just never really... I guess, yeah, had a chance to experience.